Everybody is looking for a hero. For Marco and Carlos, their journey began in the streets of Long Beach. Marco was a beacon in the community. A young teacher, he believed in the power of knowledge. He dedicated his life to guiding troubled youth. He saw potential where others saw only despair. His classroom, a sanctuary. His lessons, a lifeline. He spent his days nurturing young minds, his evenings volunteering at the local community center. He was a pillar of support, a friend to all. He had a smile that could light up a room, a laugh that was contagious. Marco had a future filled with promise. He dreamed of a better tomorrow, a tomorrow he was determined to build brick by brick with his students. But fate, it seemed, had other plans, plans that were cruel and unyielding.
The streets were alive with the rhythm of the city. A Friday night, a party on the Queen Mary. The ship was pulsing with music and laughter. Then, the screech of tires could be heard on the top of the main deck on the front of the ship. A blinding flash lit up the night in the parking lot. Then the sound of gunshots ripped through the night, shattering the fragile peace. The shoreline, usually so full of life, fell silent. A hush fell over the crowd as people scrambled for cover. Fear hung heavy in the air, choking, suffocating. When the sirens finally faded, a chilling scene remained. Chalk outlines on the pavement, a stark reminder of the life taken too soon. Among them, Marco. His dreams, his future extinguished in a senseless act of violence.
Detective Carlos Martinez stared at the crime scene in the parking lot of the Queen Mary. The yellow tape fluttered in the wind, seagulls screaming overhead. Each gust was like a whisper of the life lost, a life he was sworn to protect. I have failed my family in the worst way. He had seen too much death, too much sorrow. Marco's case was different. It cut deep, too close to home. This was his brother. He saw his own reflection in Marco's eyes lying on the ground, looking back up at him. The eyes of a man who believed in something better. The weight of the badge he wore grew heavier. What had he done? Was this all his fault? This wasn't just another case. This was personal. He vowed to get justice for Marco, his family, and the community that mourned his loss. Long Beach will be free of the gangs once and for all. I put that on my brother and the hood. He knew the streets, knew their secrets. He would not rest until he found the ones responsible for his brother's death.
Detective Carlos Martinez's breath was heavy, his heart pounding like a war drum in the dark alley. Shadows danced around him, playing tricks on his eyes, but he stayed sharp. This was it, the moment he had been waiting for. The nightbird stepped out from the shadows with a nasty smirk on his face. He was cocky, way too cocky. Carlos could feel the weight of his brother's memory pushing him forward. The fear he held for Bird was fading. This ends tonight. You think you can stop me, Detective? Bird's voice was a hiss, dripping with arrogance. I've dodged you all this time. You're just another pawn in my game. You play chess, Detective? Carlos clenched his fists, his knuckles turning white. This ain't no game, he growled. This is justice, for Marco, for everyone you've hurt. The tension was thick, the air heavy with anticipation. Every sense Carlos had was on high alert. Carlos could hear the distant hum of the city, the rustle of a newspaper caught in the wind. It all faded away, leaving just the two of them. Then Bird lunged with nothing but hate in his eyes. It happened all in a blur of motion. Carlos sidestepped him, his training kicking in. The alley seemed to close in around them as they fought, each blow a testament to the pain and loss they carried. With a final surge of strength, Carlos managed to pin the Bird against the wall. "It's over," he panted, his voice filled with a mix of relief and sorrow. "For Marco, for Long Beach." Bird's smirk faded, replaced by a look of defeat. The fight was over, but the journey for justice was just beginning. Carlos knew that this was only the first step in healing the wounds that had been inflicted on his community. As the sirens wailed in the distance, Carlos allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. He had done it. He had kept his promise. And though the road ahead was still long, he knew he would continue to fight. For Marco, for Long Beach, for the future. Then in a flash, Bird reached for Carlos's gun. Carlos almost thought he'd stopped him until he felt the heat of the bullet entering his body and the loud sound of the gun going off as he faded off into the darkness. Find out what happens to Carlos by reading the book, A Romantic Urban Tale, Gangsters of Long Beach, Love or Loyalty, Kindle edition.